I'm Ron Edmondson, pastor of Emmanuel Baptist Church, and most would say I have a pretty active presence on social media. And I'll frequently be asked, how do I find the time to invest in it, and really what's the purpose of it? And I still hear pastors say they don't see the value in social media. So I thought I'd take a few minutes and say a few words about that. First, I would say, when I'm asked the question, how do I spend so much time, it probably has a misunderstanding attached to it. First, it probably doesn't take as much time as you think I put into it. And second, they don't understand the why of what I'm doing and why I see it of such a great value. So let me address the why first. Here are 5 reasons you should be using social media if you're a church leader. First, it breaks down the barriers between people. It seems hard to get to know people these days. You know, I have a large church, and it's hard to know everybody in the church. We seem more guarded in our homes even, and with our personal lives. So when I tweet or when I update my Facebook status, people feel like they're getting insight into me, and honestly, they look at me differently on Sunday when I want to speak to them at a more intimate level into their lives, because they feel like they know me, and so because they welcomed me into their life during the week. And the second reason is I feel more connected to real people. It's where people are, whether we like it or not. The people I'm trying to reach, the people I'm trying to minister to on a regular basis, are on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, honestly more than they are in the church on Sunday morning. And so it gives me a connection to them and them a connection to me. The third reason is that I get to network with people who are making a difference. I get to interact with church leaders around the world that are making significant impact in the kingdom of God, and I learn from them. It provides me a way to stay in touch with key decision makers and leaders in the kingdom. And then the fourth reason is that it keeps me updated on breaking news. I'm working throughout my day, and if I follow certain tweets or certain Facebook channels, I can keep up without having to invest a lot of time with the things that are happening around the world in a very quick and timely way. And then the fifth reason, and here's the one that addresses the question of why, but also the question of how much time I spend in it. It really is a wise use of my time. People think the opposite is true, but the reality is that social media makes me more effective. I have a heart to influence people for good. Again, pastoring a large church, I'm expected to minister to large groups of people. Social media allows me to make a difference efficiently and effectively. Now, granted, you have to discipline yourself in order to be effective with that, and for it not to consume your life more than's needed. But and I try to do that, but it does allow me to make what I believe is a wiser use of my time. I can honestly say this: the biggest influence on our church growing over the last 3 years that I've been in the current church, and even in church planting before that, the biggest influence, I would love to say it was people who were inviting their friends or people who were bringing somebody with them on Sunday, and I hope and continue to encourage that to happen. But the greatest influence has been what has happened on social media as a church and as an individual, and we've been very persistent, very strategic about that happening. So the next question that comes to mind is, which social media should I do? And there are lots of them out there. And first I would say I think it's a mistake to try to do all of them. A lot of times I see somebody jump in, and they jump in with both feet and hands too, and they do everything out there, and they get burnt out on it very quickly, and they're not effective with any of it. I would find out first, if you're not on any social media, or if you're considering jumping from platform to platform, I would find out first where the most people you're trying to reach are. It may be Facebook, it may be Instagram, it may be something else, but I would find out where your people are, because again, your intent is to connect with them. Frankly, I know some people who are tired of the drama on Facebook, I am as well, and many times I've considered getting rid of it altogether. And yet, I would say it's the number one way in my church, at least, that people interact with me on a regular basis. I get more messages through Facebook than I do emails. And a lot of times they're a little more personal messages because they feel like they know me because of the platform. So figure out where your people are at and where you can have the most impact. The mediums that I would consider the social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, and Google. Those are the ones right now that are getting the most attention. Facebook is becoming an older crowd, but the younger people still message me that way. They still go to Facebook to send me a personal message through Facebook. But our older people, our seniors and people my age are on Facebook all the time. So it's still a very important medium for us, I think, as church leaders. Twitter, frankly, Twitter is my favorite just because it's fast and it's defined. You don't have to. You can segment who you're following a little bit better with some of the tweet decks and things like that out there. But Twitter is, well, depending on your church, may or may not have huge numbers in your church that are on Twitter. But it is the place you will connect mostly with church leaders, so it may be something to consider. Instagram is, honestly, Instagram is something that I'm using and seeing more traction among younger people in our church. And so I do it, and I try to use it for Kingdom Impact also. Not as social, it seems like, but it does allow people to look into your life, and so I use it for that purpose. Periscope, honestly, I'm a novice at this and have an account, not using it a great deal, but our team is exploring it, learning how it is. It's growing fast with interest, so it is something to keep on your radar and maybe something to consider. I'm watching churches and ministries that are using it on a regular basis. And then Google or Google Plus, I would definitely say it's a valid platform. Some are using that. What I would say about Google is people are searching for your church. They are searching for a church. In fact, it's one of the most repeated things we have on guest cards is that they found us by an internet search. So you've got to understand Google. And what I would say to you is this is worth getting outside help with. We actually pay somebody to help us with our Google and with our analytics and all those. There's just a lot of words associated with that frankly most of us will not get to that level, but it is important. And so I would consider getting some outside help on that. You don't have to invest a lot, but a little. And there may even be some people who are experts at that in your church. Certainly some of the younger people in your church may be able to help you with that and figure out some of that. And I would say that for all the platforms. Talk to some people in your church and get some input so you can figure out which ones are best for you. Last, as far as mediums, I would say blogging is another form. Certainly that's one of the ways that I use my influence to spread my influence is blogging. Certainly another form. It's a good form, and I'm careful to say this. It's a good form if you're going to use it consistently. You cannot allow it to be something that sits out there for a long time and never gets used. It's just worthless otherwise. So what can you do? I would get personally involved in one or two of those, and I would encourage your church to be involved in those two. That's the basis of what I would do. Let me close with 5 tips with whatever social media platform you choose to have. The first one is this: be consistent. If your last post was 6 months ago, it's not worth your time. Be around frequently. In fact, if you had a Facebook post out there or a Facebook page out there for your church or even for yourself and you haven't posted anything in a year or more, take it down. You'd be better off without it. It could be a couple of times a week. It could be a couple of times a day, but be frequent and consistent in that. The second is to be social. Remember, it's social media. You can't simply post and run, so to speak. You've got to engage with people. For the church, you don't have to be the only one to do that. There could be somebody in your church that handles your social media accounts. but you've got to be social with people. They will use that to ask you questions. In fact, we have people in our church, that's the first place they go to ask a question about the church is to our Facebook page. Somebody's got to be monitoring that and got to be social with them. The next goes along with that is be responsive. If somebody posts a message, always answer it. Answer it even if it's a complaint. You've got to respond to it. No response says something also. So be responsive to people. The next one is to be helpful. You know, there's plenty of unhelpful garbage out there in social media. In fact, one of the reasons you can be involved in it is to make a positive impact, to help people, to encourage people. You can, whether you post Bible verses or thoughts that are coming to your mind or just encourage people on their page, whatever it is, be gospel-minded and be practically helpful. We need that among the world of social media. And then the last thing I would say about being involved in social media is to be strategic. Know what you're doing and why you're doing it. As I said in the beginning, otherwise it's just a waste of time. Otherwise it's just busy work. And people are going to say, why are you even doing this? But I can look back over what we've been able to do through social media and realize people are watching everything we do online. And when we post it there, it stays for a long time. But we've been able to see, and I've been able to see personally, how we've made a real kingdom difference by being strategic in what we do with social media and always having the purpose of being kingdom building. Pray about it, see what God would have you to do, but I believe it's here among us, and I believe it's a resource to use in kingdom work. Thank you.